Jessica, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Victor, would you lead us in prayer, please?
Sure. Father God in heaven, we come to you today asking you for direction, asking you for your guidance. Lord, we ask that you will shed light upon upon the city, Father God, that your will can be performed. In the mighty name of Jesus we pray. Amen.
Amen. Nita, roll call, please.
Counselor Segola,
Here.
Counselor Locke,
Here.
Counselor Foster is not present at the moment. Mayor Becker,
Here.
a quorum is declared.
All right.
Knock, knock.
Are you present?
Only mine.
Modifications to agenda? None?
No, sir.
Approval of consent agenda, minutes of regular meeting June 3rd, 2021. Review and approval of accounts payable.
I would move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda for minutes of regular meeting June 3rd, 2021, and review and approval of accounts payable. Is there any more discussion? Nita?
Counselor Foster,
Aye.
Counselor Locke,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Segola,
Aye.
Mayor Becker.
Aye.
Motion carries to approve the consent agenda.
Proclamations, communications, and appointments. Who's first?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. It's a pleasure of mine this evening to introduce Ms. Jessica Kino. She's the newest face of the city here at City Hall. She is taking over the receptionist duties up front so that we can move Curry into utility billing, and Diana will become more of a accounts payable manager and accounting manager within the finance department. So Jessica comes to us. She lives in Del Norte, and I'm gonna let her tell you a little bit about her, but we're really excited to have her. She's got about 2 weeks under her belt with us now, so.
Well, I don't know what to say, but I'm very glad to be here. I don't know, I'm kind of nervous. Sorry. It's just like my interview. I was shaking. But yeah, I'm very glad to be here. So.
Well, welcome.
No.
Thanks.
Welcome.
Thank
Nice
you.
to have you.
Thank you. For what?
Good evening, City Council. I would like to introduce to you the new assistant in the City Clerk's office. This is Lorena, and she has been here a little over a month now. She's doing an amazing job, so I'm really glad to have her. And she actually be nice to her because she's going to do the meeting on the 1st for me. So she's learning and moving right along. And would you like to say something?
Well, I didn't know that I was gonna be up here. You didn't tell me that. But no, I'm very glad to be here. I'm glad I get to meet everybody and get to know everybody and be here for a while. So
Awesome.
Very good. Welcome.
Thank you. Welcome.
thank you guys.
Yes.
Chief.
I didn't get out of my chair.
Well, good evening, Mayor, councilors. the longest year of my life having George Chief over here as my chief. He's had a really outstanding job for the community, and we really appreciate all the work he's done with the police department and done some great stuff for us. So thanks, George. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Ooh.
Almost seems like a lifetime, huh? Well, I'm glad you have, Chief.
Glad to be here. It's a great place.
All right, citizen comments, special presentations, scheduled appearances. In order to be included on this portion of the agenda, you have to file appropriate paperwork with the city clerk no later than noon on Monday prior to the meeting. The 2020 audit with Logan and Associates.
Well, good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of City Council. My name's Kyle Logan. I'm the owner of Logan and Associates, the city's independent audit firm. And I'm here tonight to present the results of the city's December 31st, 2020 financial statements audit. And so I'll kind of start out and talk about our audit process and then touch on some highlights in the financial statements. So in front of you, there are two documents. The thick document, that's the financial statements, and then the smaller 3-page separate document is what I refer to as the management letter. And so we perform the city's audit in 2 phases. We do preliminary work in December, and this year it was the first week of December, and we actually did it remotely because the city hall was closed. And so actually it went very well. And this time of this phase of the audit is when we look at internal controls, test certain samples of like cash disbursements, payroll, utility billings, to make sure that, you know, money that's leaving the city as far as in the form of checks or payroll payments has proper supporting approvals, proper supporting documentation, and verify it to the accounting records that it's being reported properly. We also picked utility billing samples of different residents and users' utility bills. And in that, you know, we verify that the rates, gallons used, are being charged appropriately based on the rates that have been adopted by City Council. And so then doing all that, you know, that kind of helps us set the groundwork for our final phase of the audit, which is this year we did it the week of April 5th. And at that time, that's when we concentrate more on the balances of the financial statements. And so we send third-party confirmations out to verify balances, for instance, to the banking and financial institutions, to those who have issued debt for the city, and also certain revenue confirmations, such as property and sales tax revenues. And so we get those confirmation responses, and then we compare them to the accounting records to make sure that they're in agreement. So then we also spend our time testing details of certain account balances in the different funds of the city, and we perform a lot of analytical review, comparing 2020 with 2019, picking Jenny's brain to make sure that, you know, events that have happened sometimes over a year ago, that she has an explanation. And then after all that process is done, that gives me a level of comfort in order to issue an opinion on the financial statements. Now, all the financial statement numbers, all the footnote disclosures in this document, they're responsibility of the city's management. Our responsibility is to perform an audit and issue an opinion. And so following the table of contents is the independent auditor's report. And on the top of page B is the most important paragraph in that 2-page document, and that's the opinions paragraph. And so for the year ended December 31st, the city received an unmodified opinion, which is a clean opinion in layman's terms. What that tells you is city council, that tells you that all the financial statement numbers in here, all the footnote disclosures in this document are in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles and are fairly stated as of December 31st, 2020. So following the independent auditor's report, there's primarily three sections to the financial statements. The management's discussion and analysis starts with the basic financial statements, and that's more of a narrative overview of what's happened over the past year from a financial standpoint, comparing 2020 with 2019. And then following the MD&A is the statement of net position on page 1. And this is more of a snapshot picture at December 31st, 2020 of the two types of activities, the governmental activities, which are all your governmental funds, and the business type activities, which are your water and sewer operations. And so when we look at that, your total assets at December 31st, 2020 was about 22.7 million, which is about a 3.5% increase over last year, or yeah, $3.5 million increase over last year, or about an 18% increase. Of that, cash and investments makes up about 4.2 million. Your capital assets, all the buildings, all the infrastructure, water and sewer systems, and water and sewer treatment plants, that makes up about 16.5 million, which is about a $2.5 million increase over last year, primarily related to the Sky High Events Complex being constructed. Okay. Then there's a new line in there this year. It's the net pension asset, which is about $224,000. And in 2019, the city's police department joined FPPA for their pension. And so, as being a member of the FPPA, there are certain accounting standards that apply to your membership in there, saying that you have to recognize on your financial statements the proportionate share of the pension assets of the total FPPA plans. So that's what that number represents. And I'll talk a little more about it later. It actually added about 6 to 7 pages to your footnotes just for that pension plan disclosure. So total liabilities citywide is about 5.6 million. This is about a decrease of 373,000. The majority of that is your payments on your long-term debt, on your bonds and your loans and your capital leases. And then leaving a net position. So your net position is basically the net worth of the city. 16.9 million, which is about a $4 million increase over prior year. And that's mostly in the governmental activities. Okay. Of the net position, it's kind of split up into 3 categories. Net investment in your capital assets, so that's about 11.3 million, which is the capital assets net of the related debt associated with those assets. There's various restrictions on the net position, that's about 1.5 million, and then your unrestricted is about 4.1 million, which is split up 2.4 million over your governmental activities and 1.7 million over your business type activities. And that kind of covers some highlights on page 1. Page 2 is the statement of activities, or this is more your income statement. And so it kind of starts on the left side of the page, flows to the right facing page, and then it goes down. And so it starts out with your total expenses of 5.8 million, which is very comparable to 2019. And your total program revenues, there in the 3 columns, that's about 6 million, which is about an increase of 2.8 million. And again, the majority of that increase is related to the donations for the Sky High project. Your total general revenues, which are primarily your taxes, they're at about 3.9 million. That's about an increase of 930,000, and the majority of that is sales taxes. And a lot of that relates to internet sales and online sales that the state, is collecting and remitting to the city. Okay. So then that leaves, you had about a net income of, as I mentioned, about $4 million, $4.2 million for your governmental activities, and you had about $120,000 loss over your water and sewer funds combined. So then following on page 3, we get into what's called the fund financial statements. And this is your governmental funds, so this is your general fund, you know, the fund with the major operations of the city. And this is your balance sheet. So again, snapshot picture at 12/31 of all the assets, all the claims against those assets in the form of liabilities, and then your ending fund balance. And so, you know, your major funds presented there are the general fund, the new fund, the 1 cent sales tax fund, and then the capital projects fund. And then the non-major funds make up the remainder, and they are detailed on back on pages 44 and 45. So your total assets for your governmental activities are about $4 million, which is about a $1.3 million increase, and that increase is mainly in your cash and investments. And so of that $4 million, $2.9 million is in cash and investments, which is about a 64% over last year. Okay. Total liabilities, small amount, $126,000, and then your deferred property taxes of about $403,000. And again, that's the council. You levy the taxes in December of each year for the following year to be collected. And then at the very bottom there, the total fund balance of about $3.5 million. You can see the details of the restrictions for the various different categories. That totals about $1.4 million. You have a little bit of committed and assigned of $123,000. And then that leaves unreserved of $1.9 million, which is $667,000 increase over last year, or about a 53% increase in your unreserved fund balance. And so if we were to compare that to your expenses, on the next page, or on page 5, that you basically have 18 to 19 months of operations in your unreserved fund balance. And so what that tells you is that, you know, if for whatever reason no revenues were coming into the city, you'd be able to operate for about a year and a half or a little more before you had went into dire straits. So that's always a good thing to have for unforeseen circumstances. Okay, on page 4, page 4 primarily reconciles page 3 to page 1. I won't talk much about that. Then on page 5 is the governmental fund statement of revenue, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. This is primarily your income statement for all your governmental funds. Again, with the 3 major funds and the non-major funds. Total revenues this year, $7.2 million, which is a $3.3 million increase over last year. And again, that's a combination of the sales tax increases and then the donations for the Sky High project. Then your total expenditures, $6.3 million. Again, that's about a $2.4 million increase over last year. Majority of that, again, Sky High project cost. So that leaves you with a net increase in fund balance or net income of about $1,285,000, which is about $673,000 in the general fund increase. So that's pretty good. You know, especially in this past year with the pandemic going on and all the uncertainties, not knowing about things. You know, your city management has, I guess, kind of clamped down on things so that you weren't overspending and then ending up in a bad situation. So I haven't seen that with all my clients this year, so that's a good thing. Following on page 6, again, page 6 reconciles page 4 to page 2. Then page 7, now we get into the water and sewer funds. And so this is your statement of net position or your balance sheet for the water and sewer funds. Total assets about $9 million. Your cash and investments make up about $1.2 million of that. Your capital assets make up about $7.1 million which is a slight decrease over last year, mostly due to depreciation on the system and the infrastructure. Your total liabilities, $3 million. That's a decrease of about $138,000. Again, that's mostly related to the debt payments on the loans. Then that leaves with an ending net position of $6 million, slight decrease of about 2% over last year. Not a big concern from our standpoint as your auditors. Of that $6 million, $4.3 million is the net investment in the capital assets, all the systems and the treatment plants. You have slight restrictions of about 43,000, and then your unrestricted is 1.7 million. That's split. The water fund is 1.2 million. So again, doing that analysis of looking at your operating expenses, you have about 15 months in the water fund. Sewer fund about 461,000, and in there you have about 6 months of operations. Again, it's something I always look at when I'm doing the audits to make sure that those amounts aren't decreasing significantly, and we don't have any concerns at this point. So that's good. Page 8, statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in that position. This is primarily your income statement. So again, your operating revenues, 2.1 million, very comparable to prior year. Your operating expenses of 1.9 million, about $173,000 increase over last year, and some of that's related to some system maintenance and repairs throughout the year. So your operating income is 246,000. So I don't always see this with water and sanitation funds, and so that's a good thing because your operations are actually covering depreciation on the system, which is non-cash. Okay. Your non-operating revenues and expenses, tap fees, and the transfers made to the general fund, that took about 366,000 away in total for the funds. So generating a net loss, as I mentioned before, of about 120,000, which is about a 2% of your equity in those funds. Page 9, statement of cash flows. This basically shows you your water and sewer operations from 4 categories and the cash flows generated or used by those categories. Operating, non-capital financing, capital and related financing, and investing. And so the thing I always look at from an audit standpoint are your operations of the water and sewer funds cash flowing? And in this case, they are. So that's good. Because then that helps offset, payments on your debt, capital construction or capital improvements to the water systems. And then the other thing that occurred this year was that you purchased the $250,000 CD that's split between the 2 funds. So again, that was kind of a use of your cash. So that's kind of highlights on statement of cash flows, and really that's the highlights on the first part there of the financial statements. Following page 9 from pages 10 through 35, these are the footnotes, and some highlights there. Again, the Accounting Standards Board requires certain disclosures to be included in the form of these footnotes to support the numbers that are in the previous statements that I just went through. And so pages 17 through 19, that's your cash and investments footnote. Pages 20 through 21, that's your capital assets tables for both the governmental activities and your water and sewer activities. And then pages 22 through 26, that is your long-term debt disclosures, showing you the tables there of the beginning balances, the payments, and then following in more detailed descriptions of each of the debt issuances. And then following on pages, as I mentioned before, on pages 26 through 34, these are your pension footnotes. And so the ICMA, that's for the main city employees. That's consistent with prior year's disclosures, but the new disclosure, as I mentioned, is the FPPA participation there. And because the police, that started in 2019, so 2020 was the first reporting year. And that's why we have that a thicker book this year, I guess. So then following on the last page, page 35 of the footnotes, there's 2 paragraphs I want to mention there, bring to your attention. The uncertainty, and that's related to the coronavirus pandemic. And so the accounting standards people have recommended that local governments include this type of disclosure, basically saying that there's an uncertainty because, you know, it's unknown how this may affect the operations of the city. And so that's why we put that in there, to make readers aware, okay? And then we also have the construction commitment that happened for the remainder of the Sky High Events Complex project. Following on pages 36 through 43, the required supplementary information. This is like the second section of this document. And this has your general fund budget and your 1-cent sales tax fund budgets. And then it also has several tables related to FPPA that are required by the accounting standards. And then on pages 44 through 53, these are your non-major combining balance sheet and income statements and the budgetary comparison schedules for the rest of the funds. And then finally, the last 2 pages there are the local highway finance report, pages 54 and 55. And that's a required report that the state auditor's office requires because the city receives the local highway tax fund monies. And so they like to have this report in there. We auditors have been trying for years to get them to take it out, but anyway. So that kind of covers the financial statements. And I know I kind of threw a lot of information at you at once. So glad to see you're all still with me. So the next document is a management letter. And the purpose of this document is our accounting and auditing standards require us as your auditors to communicate certain things to the governing council of the city. And so that's outlined here as our responsibility under our auditing standards. You know, we also talk about if there were any changes in the accounting policies. Well, I did put there is some information in there about the adoption of the pension standard related to the FPPA plan. And then, you know, if we had any issues or during the audit or disagreements with management, well, if it would have, you would have heard from me before tonight, so that's a good thing. And so, you know, when you look at this letter, I like to say it's kind of a boring letter because there's not a lot in it. This letter is also a tool to use if we find areas of improvement that are needed or areas of improvement over policies and procedures. And so, you know, in our early years of performing the city's audit, we had several things, and over the years, those have been taken care of. And so what that tells you as city council, that tells you that policies and procedures that have been put in place by the current council and previous councils are being followed by city management. That also tells you that you have good, sound accounting system and procedures in order to provide good, sound financial reporting. And, you know, finally, I want to thank Jennifer and Forrest and the staff at the city for their help, because they have the hard part during the audit of hunting information down for us and making the information available to us. We have the easy part of going through it and auditing it and asking questions and stuff. So it really makes the audit go very smooth and timely. And so I really appreciate their help and for making a very efficient audit. Any questions?
A lot of information.
Yes. Well, and I will say, if you do come up with questions, please let Forrest or Jennifer know, and they can relay the questions on to me, and I will find an answer for you.
much.
Thank you.
Lots of numbers.
Yes, there's a lot going on in the city of Monte Vista.
Monte Vista Farmers Market, Chelsea.
I'm here again to ask for permission to use the city's facilities for that parking lot at the corner of First and Jefferson. Pop quiz, do I remember my presidents in order? For the 2021 farmers market season, which will run July 9th through September 17th, same as usual, Friday mornings from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. We also would like to use electricity in that facility and possibly also hang banners on the football posts on either end of town. I'm sorry if that's an actual technical term for that one. So we're going to have pretty much the same thing as usual. There isn't going to be a mask requirement. We have to use COVID suggestions for low-risk counties at this point, set forth by the Colorado Farmers Market Association, and I did confirm that through Rio Grande County Public Health. So that's highly encouraged masks, because some transactions can't be 6 feet apart in that environment. But they won't be required. We won't be doing the single direction movement anymore this year, also because that works out better working with the Native American Art Fair and the other events that'll be utilizing the space as well. Let's see, I think that everything else should be pretty much the same. We're expecting local produce vendors, a few more like local artists will be vendors there this year, some more bakers, so it should be pretty good. So just a snapshot of last year, we did $20,367.47 in food sales last year, 1,911 in non-food sales. Provided $814 to the community in the SNAP coupons. So we'll use the same process as before. Anybody who receives SNAP can bring their card. We have like a credit card machine for it, and then we'll cash them out, give them however many of these that they want to spend at the market. We also have the Double Up Food Bucks program again this year, so that's these vouchers. And people who receive SNAP benefits can get up to $20 a week in these additional vouchers, which can only be used for produce. So that helps keep fresh and local produce and healthy foods kind of going to the people in the community that need it the most. We have up to $600 a season to use for these. We used 565 last year, so hopefully we won't end up at the end of the season where we're needing any more. But do you have any questions for me or anything else that you wanted to know?
The farmers market's only going to be on Friday,
Mm-hmm.
9 to 1.
Yep, Friday mornings. So the Local Foods Coalition, all of the markets that fall under that, kind of, sort of coincidentally and sort of intentionally, we're working it out. So the farmers market in Del Norte started today actually. So they're gonna do Thursday afternoons and evenings. We do Friday mornings, and then Alamosa does Saturday mornings. So there's kind of like some of the vendors can hit all three communities and, go to some of the other events like the Rio Grande Farm Park. They have a farm stand and some of the other affiliated organizations like that. I've been trying to encourage some of the vendors that I've talked to try and do all three. Some of them are excited about it. Some of them are like, I really need some time to make things. So if I could have some time to make products to sell, that would be good. But for the most part, everyone's pretty excited about the 3 nights. 3 days rather.
That was good. Last year you did really good. Boy, there's a lot of people there.
Yeah. So hopefully we'll keep growing. I am very unsure about the music this year. Last year, for COVID reasons, we couldn't have music. This year we could, but we have to have a 12-foot radius between the performing musicians and any people that are observing them or passing by. I have no complaints about the space. I'm just saying, making sure that they have a complete 12-foot radius would take up at least a few booth spaces, so it'll kind of depend on how busy we're gonna be booth-wise and everything for the musicians. We'll probably have to put them on the other side from where we normally would. So, I'm not going to totally guarantee that we will have music this year, but I'll try.
It's just good to see things coming back up and then summer here and fresh food.
Yeah.
That'd be nice.
One of the farms emails pictures of the peaches every couple of weeks. Oh, here's the flowers and the bees, and then now it's like, here's the little peaches, you know, I'm like, put me a tease.
So they're just kind of teasing you along the
Yeah.
way. Yeah, okay.
So,
Motion to approve that.
You getting the motion to approve?
Yeah, you would need one of those.
Yes.
So I move that we approve to allow the food farmer's market to happen in the Facet parking lot every third Friday, or every Friday?
every Friday,
Every Friday,
July 9th through September 17th.
July 9th through September
17th.
17th.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the farmer's market to use a Facet parking lot per date stated by Chelsea. Is there any more discussion? Nita?
Counselor Foster,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Segola,
Aye.
Counselor Locke,
Aye.
Mayor Becker.
Aye.
Motion carries to approve the farmer's market at Facet parking lot.
Thank you,
Thank you, Chelsea.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate all your work on that.
thank you.
Chelsea, if you wanna get the banners over here in the next week or two, we can get them on before the market.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thanks.
All right, Monte Vista Co-op new construction project.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. My name is Mike Hample. I am the fertilizer manager for the Monte Vista Co-op. I believe Eric is out of town this week on a business trip, so that's why I'm here. I think on your agenda today, this was page 93. Is that correct? Or something like that?
Yeah.
The co-op owns all this property, and we're looking at a construction project of a dry fertilizer facility and also a shop facility and chemical warehouse. Looking at this facility here, turn upside down for you. This, if you can see this here, this is the petroleum facility right in here. That's where they currently have the fuel tanks here, which will be kind of north of the extension offices here. And this is the fuel facility. The dry fertilizer facility will set clear back up in here, up off the street, way back up in this lot. And the shop and office facility will be up here along to the street, along 38th Street, 38th Road. And there will be a rail line access from our property coming across the county street, access along the south side. The dry fertilizer facility will not have any running water or septic, only the office facility. And I would estimate that on the average year-round there'll be less than 10 people in that facility. Because most of the time, as in agriculture, they're out in the county and out and about throughout the valley. So in max, you might have 10 to 12 people there. In the wintertime, you might have 12 people or something like that in the facility. But most of the time, during the season, during the growing months, our people will be gone. So what we're asking for is, since we are outside the city limits, is to access a sewer tap on a sewer line that runs along 38th Street, running north and south. I think right now the co-op office, the main office, and the extension office, and the C-store are already all on that sewer tap already. And so our request is to be allowed to access the sewer tap for the office facility. They're along 38th Street. I only have one of these. I will pass around to let take a look at it. That's what the facility would look like a little bit. It's fairly large. It's quite a project, exciting project. just for what it's worth, the existing dry fertilizer facility on the east side of the street up against the railroad tracks is, about 60 years old. Dale, you know what happens to a 60-year-old building and they've been in fertilizer for that many years? Walls start popping out, and it seemed bitter days.
That building had issues a long time ago.
This is a consolidation project too, to bring more of our stuff together for efficiency and keep us relevant for the future, how we operate efficiently with our as we serve our growers in the valley. The project should have getting close to breaking ground. We were hoping for a November completion date, and that got back all the way to February. Now we're back into January. That goes back to availability of lumber.
What's available?
Yeah. Just because the lumber prices have escalated and supplies, and we finally were able to secure all the lumber. Out of curiosity, I asked the contractor, what was the difference if we had built it a year ago? How much cheaper would it have been? Oh, at least $400,000. It's just on lumber alone.
It's gonna be partial concrete and then wood.
Mostly concrete. The shop facility will be all steel, 20-foot walls, and the fertilizer facility will have 8-foot walls, concrete, that are about 2 foot thick. Thank you. They're about 2 foot thick. And on the inside, and not quite as thick on the outside. And then rail spur going into it as well. And the issue, because of the Monte Vista or the San Luis Valley where we're located at, in-season fertilizer deliveries are terrible. They're really, really hard. Look at him smiling over there. He knows. So this facility will allow us to also work with our other retailers in the valley as well, to be able to work with different manufacturers on throughput of fertilizer, to have fertilizer available for other retailers in the valley and just outside the valley as well. So that's part of our thought process too. It's a little bit.
How many ton is that facility?
8,000. It didn't start out that big. It just kept getting bigger and bigger. Better to be too big than too small.
Would there be any reason why they
How
wouldn't
far
be
outside
able
the
to
city limits
tap
are
into sewer?
Right, as they exist?
I believe the city limits, I think, are here.
Actually, if I may, councilors, so the property in question is actually located in Rio Grande County. It's not within the city limits of Monte Vista. So part of the reason you're hearing about this, because partly it's an interesting project, and it is in the county, so the building is under the regulation. But the applicants want to tap into the city sewer, and they're in the county, and it's a commercial venture. So it's up to the council to decide if you're okay with that without annexation, or with annexation, or.
That was my next question. Is this part of what we would like, of what we have discussed annexing?
Well, I mean, it's certainly, it's a commercial use.
But it's within the parameters of
Oh, yeah, I
we
mean, it's
discussed annexing.
definitely within, any presupposed 3-mile limit. It's also, the city's policy on this is vague. So the council gets to decide. At other places I've worked, policy is very clear. If you provide water or sewer outside of your, the limits of your district, if you will, or of your municipal boundaries, then, usually you require annexation, but a lot of times you can also charge a fee, or, if you're in the county, you pay twice the sewerage, right?
That's correct.
So, the balance here is if it was a wet plant and they were going to use a whole ton of water, our water and our sewage, we'd have to look at the impacts, obviously, to just the sewer line that's there. It's a pretty small use, right? We're got a shop.
That's correct.
Right.
We have a water well on the property now, today, a large water well. And so we're gonna run a water line over, to feed the sprayers and things like that. The large water use will come from our own water source. So the only water from the city would be, actually, we're still planning on using all of our own water anyway. It's just a sewer tap.
All right, it's pretty minor sewage use
Yes.
for a 10-person office.
Yes.
So it's really a policy question or a thought question on the part of the council, how you wanna approach it, which is why you're seeing this.
It's in the main building's tapped in already, correct?
Correct, I mean, so the.
And so is the
part
other
of the
fertilizer
property-
office across the street.
Right, so those are, the issue here is this is a separate parcel of land, right? Not a separate owner.
Right, that's correct.
Co-op bought this a couple, 3 years ago,
A
maybe?
couple of pieces there, there's a couple of pieces involved there, yes.
Right, right, so, I mean, that's really why you're seeing it, cause it's a separate parcel of land. So, you know, if it was the same parcel, we wouldn't even be having the discussion really, because they already have sewerage, they use their own water, you know, so, but not a decision that, can be made.
And we could have consolidated the properties together into one property,
Right,
but
I
we
mean-
not pursued that avenue, so.
right. I mean, they can consolidate the property pretty easy. You know, the highlighted property is meets and bounds, so it's really easy. It's a pretty simple process, honestly.
Have you guys discussed the possibility of the annexation?
We have internally some, and I won't speak too much of it, that's an Eric question for Eric more than anything. But so much of what we do, or all ag people do in the fertilizer and ag chemical industry and seed, it's all non-taxable sales,
Right.
As far as that facility goes?
yes.
So are you saying that Monte Vista Co-op would be, because it's non-taxable sales anyway, you'd be okay with being, with that?
Well, I'm not gonna say that, that's a discussion.
I'm just clarifying, I just want to
I mean,
be clear here.
The sales that we have in agronomy products, like Dale does, are all non-taxable.
Okay,
So when we send an invoice out to a customer, there's no taxes at the bottom of it. It's just for the product and the price, and that's all.
okay.
And any services that we provide along with that. So all we're doing is consolidating our other facilities into a new facility is all we're doing.
So basically, this parcel with this plan on it will not generate sales tax.
Correct.
But the Monte Vista Co-op overall would generate sales tax for the city in some way.
Not much, because there again, all the fuel that we sell to the farmer, all the fertilizer, the seed, anything that the farmer buys is usually non-taxable.
But the clothes and the paint and the things.
Not if it's for farm use,
Not if it's for farm use.
and it is. They'll tell you that it is.
Right.
I haven't seen that many well-dressed people on tractors, but I'll take your word for
That
it.
is true.
That would be a question that I would have. I know it wouldn't be a huge deal, but just due to the fact that, and I'm aware of that, all ag, no tax, but there's other little pieces that would be beneficial to the whole community. And I'm just saying it, but I'm not gonna step out of my realm, okay? If you understand what I'm
Yes.
saying.
Well, and we understand, too, that the city's position can vary too. And so we also understand too that we could put in a septic system if there's enough property there to do that, so. But we don't wanna do that if we don't have to.
Would there be any reason in the future that we might need to annex that you can foresee?
Well, I mean, the city council has talked about, the co-op as a whole, and out beyond that, as working on a 3-mile plan, we're not just talking about the co-op, we're talking about,
Right.
the ability to go out to 3 miles, essentially, almost out to, Wilbur, roughly, that area.
Of course, just a little bit.
Just a little bit, well, hey, you get it, right where Soldier Field comes in, there you go, that's about 3 miles, right?
Yes.
So, yeah, eventually, there's, sense in that, short term, hard to say, it's just like discussing going down Sherman. You gotta do a cost benefit analysis and decide, is it worthwhile? The trade-off in services and things we provide, we already provide water and sewer down Sherman, all the way to the, soldier's home, right? Someday, should that all be in the city? Perhaps. But the trade-off on the water and sewer prices is right now beneficial towards the city. I mean, double sewage and double water.
Well, and if it's all for farm use anyway, then I wouldn't see why Monte Vista Co-op, again, it's going out 3 miles, so I'm not picking on you.
Right.
But if it's all for, if it's all non-taxable sales, then I don't see why Monte Vista Co-op would be against being annexed into the city. It wouldn't make any, you're not losing anything and you're gaining city benefits. So,
Right, and
that's a good thing.
Yes, yes.
I guess long term, you know, we'd probably wanna get annexed just for the 3 mile plan eventually. But I
Right.
really don't see like any rush in getting that annexed. Is there a way to like get it approved and, I don't know. Cause the annexation I don't think would be a big deal.
The sewer line's already there, running north and south
Right.
down the street, it's already there.
So I would like to, my opinion is to extend the right hand of city-county friendship and go ahead and let this go through in hopes that when it comes time to annex,
You hope that'd be a friendlier
I
conversation.
should hope it'll be a friendlier
Yes.
conversation. It may not be
Right.
what I'd like for it to be,
Right.
but friendly would be
Right.
nice.
The olive branch.
Yes.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. What do you guys think? So,
So I would move that we approve to let the Monte Vista Co-op do their new construction project and tap into our
Sewer.
sewer lines.
seconded.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Monte Vista Co-op to do their construction project and tap into the city sewer. Is there any more discussion?
There's there's no other plans. That's as far as it's going, cause you did say it's getting bigger and bigger.
Yes, well, I mean, our shed started out relatively small, the shop facility started out smaller, and we got bigger because we're putting the petroleum shop guys there with it, and also we got a bigger building. And so we decided to overbuild it and then underbuild it. That was the thought process, it took several months to come across that thought, how we're gonna do all that. And the dry shed the same way, and it started out relatively small for our own use, and then discussions have occurred with some of the manufacturers, the fertilizer manufacturers, talking to other retailers inside the valley and outside the valley. If you had a source for more fertilizer that's closer in season, instead of going all the way to Tulsa, Oklahoma with a truck and back, or trying to get a rail car shipped here in time, having more product available in season would be a benefit to the entire valley and outside the valley to the west as well.
Now, would this approval be a forever approval? Once we approve it, it's forever, or does it
Well-
need to be reviewed every so often?
No, Counselor, all you're saying is they can tap in and get charged the double sewer rate. You're tapped in, you're tapped in. You cannot ever take provided services back,
Okay.
which is okay. I mean, that's,
No, that's fine. I just wanna make
Right,
sure,
but it-
I
this
wanna
is-
know, I
this is
wanna
a
make sure.
permanent installation.
Okay, I just wanna make sure what I'm voting.
And the sewer tap that's out there is,
So they have a sewer line out there, this will be a new tap, so they'll have to do that, and we've talked to their engineers. So they pay a tap fee to tap into the sewer, and they've talked with Bobby Abeta about where everything is, so, yeah, it's just, one tap fee, and then they have an account, and it, they pay sewerage, which probably won't be a ton of sewerage.
It won't,
And this isn't costing the city anything to put it in?
no, there's a fee, to put the tap in,
Right.
several $1,000s or more to put the
Yeah,
tap
I
in.
mean, there's a plant investment fee basically, which goes the long-term benefit of the sewer fund. But yeah, the actual cost, yeah, it covers it adequately. It's a pretty simple one.
and this new addition wouldn't be something that would, cause problems to what's there already.
Well, I don't think so. I mean, in my opinion, no, not a problem. The county is reviewing it, because it's the county, so their land use department is reviewing it. And assuming that they approve that, I can't see why there's any issue for the city. It's a very contained kind of plant, so.
Okay, any more discussion? Nita?
Counselor Foster,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Segala,
Aye.
Counselor Locke,
Aye.
Mayor Becker.
Aye.
Motion carries to approve the Monte Vista Co-op construction project to tap into the city sewer.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Will we get that in writing? Will there be something sent out to verify that,
So it'll actually be in the minutes.
okay, that's good enough, that's all.
So then your
Okay.
engineers can just pick up the sewer tap application,
Mhm.
and we'll just get that going.
That sounds great, thank you so much.
You bet.
Thank you, anyone. If you ever have any further questions, don't hesitate to contact me or Eric. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you so
We
much.
get a tour when it's done?
We'll have an open house.
Nice.
It's gonna be a big one, so we want people from all over to come look at it.
Nice.
So we think it's gonna be the biggest facility in the state of Colorado. You know, it's not a very big warehouse compared to, I've run one before in north central Kansas, that was 24,000 tons, compared to this one being at 8. And now they're building them at 40,000 tons, something like that, Dale, is that right? Our facilities out there that are 40,000 tons of capacity,
Wow.
they're humongous,
They're,
the size of a football field.
I seen one that was like 150-ton capacity, 150,000 ton
Yes.
capacity. It was
Yes.
huge.
So this is a little one, this is big for the valley,
Yeah.
this is big for the valley.
And the company that's building it's very well known.
Yes,
It's Marcus.
that's who's building ours,
Yeah,
That's just
they're
building
very well
ours.
known for doing that.
yes. Okay,
So it'll be a top-notch facility for
Yes.
sure.
yes, something to be proud of.
You guys putting a Waikonia tower in it?
No, we're gonna use the declining weight system.
Oh, okay.
You can explain to these people what that is. It's all electronic.
I was thinking I want one of those.
It's gonna be cool.
Yeah, me too.
It's gonna be cool. It's that.
Very good. Well, I just dropped that bug in Eric's ear, just on that
Okay.
annexation, because I know it wouldn't be much, but
Right.
every little bit counts.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much, everyone.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Good evening.
Okay, citizen comments. City council welcomes your unscheduled comments. Please limit the comments to 3 minutes. Council will not take action at this same meeting.
Nobody does? Nobody else is here for citizen. Let me print my name here, and I will try to stay within the 3 minutes. If you need I do have a timer of my own to set. Okay, so let's see if I can do this. Okay. I see that on the agenda, there is something about a fence ordinance, and I'd like to thank you all for being gracious enough to let me speak and to consider it. I really, really appreciate that. Then I'm anxious to hear what you decided, because I did read the discussion about fence height or setback. My opinion is setback, okay? And then you don't have to measure, people want a 6-foot fence for their dogs, great, but setback. My question is, on those sidewalks where there's no greenway between the sidewalk and the street, does the city have any easement rights over onto the property?
So generally, I would say generally, because there's no absolutes. So, so there's no, the back of the sidewalk is generally the edge of the right of way. And that's basically what we're contemplating, right?
Okay, so the city does not have any easement rights that extend into the private property?
Not generally unless people
Okay,
have
right.
encroached.
Okay, that's why I think setback is a good thing. Now, my second issue, wait, I turned it back on. My second issue, and I know you can't take action today, but I want you to hear me out. We did discuss grandfathering in. And I looked at some existing ordinances. I don't know if I worked at all the right ones. And I also have an old proposed site plan for a proposed fence. We were gonna build a fence. And even in residential lots, corners are limited for visibility to 2.5 feet on corner lots. So we do care about corner visibility. Not sure we care about other visibility. But I looked at chapter 5 on nuisances. I looked at chapter 14 on building regs for residential. Chapter 14, I can give you the sections, but we already have nuisance ordinances that say it is unlawful to substantially interfere with or obstruct or tend to obstruct
or render dangerous for passage any street, alley, highway, or other public way. And the building regs say pretty much the same thing. If any building or structure which from any cause endangers the life, limb, health, morals, property, safety, or welfare of the general public, or their occupants may be required to repair, vacate, or demolish. And then chapter 14, article, I think it was 6, buildings or structures which from any cause endanger the life and limb of health of general public and way of right to be repaired, vacated. My question is, I do believe that we can issue a repair and amend order, and I do not think you grandfather in dangers. Some things you can grandfather in, some things I do not think you can. And I think it's going to be a very I have 10 seconds left. It's going to be a very contradictory message to the public that we care enough about this that we need to have an ordinance, but we're just gonna allow the danger to exist. And I know he's already shaking his head at me, but I'm asking for, oh my gosh, how do you get to stop? I'm asking for an amendment. I just think that you don't grandfather, if City of Monte Vista passed emission laws today, my 22-year-old car would have to be amended to meet those. Cherokee Power Plant got new EPA regulations, they weren't grandfathered in. I just think reasonably there are some things you grandfather in and some things you don't. And we already have ordinances in the city that I think address that nuisance. So I am still asking, well, I didn't ask last time, but I am now asking that the council consider a repair and amend order to take care of the current danger. I'm done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I know, so I'll wait until you get to that fence ordinance, okay?
Back up.
Oh, this time.
Oh.
I know. It's a big moment. I hope I don't disappoint you guys. Let me sign in. So
What's
the
the matter?
reason, is my time already started? The reason I wanted to come up tonight is because this is probably the last city council meeting I'm going to be covering for the paper. I have a new adventure I'm going on in my life that I'm really excited about, but I wanted to come up tonight and just say how much I have loved doing this job. For me, being the reporter for Monte Vista has been a huge privilege, and I have been really honored to tell this town's news. And I have learned so much doing this job, met so many wonderful people in this community, some of the kindest, friendliest people live in Monte Vista. So I just wanted to say that Monte is always going to have a really special place in my heart, and I just wish it the best as it continues onward. And as Mayor Becker says, stay Monte strong. So that's all I wanted to do. That's my comment.
And yay for you.
Your first, then that was what I had to
Sorry.
do.
I didn't say I'd be happy. I'm actually really sad, but
It doesn't look like.
I mean, I'm also
You're hiding
excited.
it well.
That's cool. Congratulations.
Congratulations. Thank you for everything back
Yeah,
there.
we wish you
Yeah.
nothing but the best.
Well, I love this community, so I wish you guys the best too.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I'm waiting for you, but I'm going. No, that's okay. I have 3 things and they're all extremely positive. So I'm Ken Hamco, if you guys don't know me, Mr. Mayor's Council. And just a couple things to point out so you can take a look at it in all your spare time. First of all, the Optimistics, if you haven't seen our website, theoptimistics.org, mark that down, take a look at it. Adam has done a lot of work on it, it's fantastic. There's a lot of information on there and a lot of things that are happening and going on. So take a look at that. The other one is that the Chamber does have possession of the website that used to be the Upper Rio Grande guide. And take a look at that now. It's called visitmontevista.com. The transition is happening as we speak. There's a lot of things happening with it as far as bringing it to Monte Vista specific. We're picking out pictures next week to go in there. A lot of the Monte Vista items are moving to the top, so when you access it, Monte Vista will be first on that. Obviously, we'll have a bunch of other things listed on there for vacations and that in Monte Vista. So take a look at that, montevista.com. Visit montevista.com. And lastly but not leastly, if no one has driven by the Chamber British Garden out there, it's amazing. So you guys have done a fantastic job. It's absolutely beautiful. So 3 positive things. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ken.
I just want to say thank you, Rebecca. You have done the most incredible job reporting. You always report the facts, and I so appreciate that. And same way with you with the gardens. Oh my gosh, with some extra help from some good, strong men, that piece of property has just blossomed. It's a joy. We're still working our one in Fullinwinder. We still have one whole flat of plants yet to plant. But we're working on it and trying, with the hot weather, we're sort of quit for a little bit. But I just want to say how nice everything looks and how proud I am to live here. Thank you.
Thank you, Margot. Ordinances. Ordinance 909.
Good evening, Council. So before you is ordinance 909, and we did discuss it at the last meeting. There were some changes that was requested. One of the changes in your packet is highlighted. We took out and we added and took out some things. So C reads sidewalk or right-of-way setback. No fence, hedge, or wall shall be placed nearer than 2 feet at any public sidewalk or right-of-way. And if on the corner, must comply with the Monte Vista Municipal Code 12-1770 of the vision clearance. The other thing that we had changed was maximum height expectations. No fence, garden wall, retaining wall, or hedges shall exceed 6 feet in height in a side yard, rear yard, front yard, or side street yard behind the front building. And those were the 2 things that was requested to change. You guys did discuss 3 to 5 feet setbacks. That was discussed, and then the 2 feet had also been asked to be put in there. So that would take it from an edge of a sidewalk back, or if there's no sidewalk, it would be from the right-of-way back.
So a 2-foot setback, by the time you do the green space, the sidewalk, and then 2 more feet, you're at least 8 to 10 feet at that point.
But we don't have green space in
Right, if you don't have a boulevard strip, then you're just talking about the width of the sidewalk plus 2 feet.
Okay, so
So
then
6
what's the
feet.
sidewalk width? 3, 4?
3, 4, depends on where you're at.
So we're looking at 6 foot.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're pulled out 6
0.
foot, you're seeing down the road.
Our sidewalks are 18 inches on our street.
Wow. What street are you on?
Davis.
Wow, those are, I didn't know they were that narrow.
They were put in years ago, part property owner and part city.
Right, so,
So they're not that wide.
right, so you got 18 inches plus 2 feet, that's,
I get that, but I'm just saying.
no, I'm saying that's pretty narrow though. That's not
Well,
much.
that was my thinking, but I'm
Right.
not you guys, so. I'm just accepting everything you do and happy.
So the problem with, any one size fits all regulation is making it fit all. If you got 18 inches plus 2 feet, that's not very much. If you've got 4-foot sidewalk at 2 feet, that's pretty good. If you got a boulevard strip plus a sidewalk, then it's like, wow, that's a lot. So we kind of have to go with the smallest denominator, I think, which would be more the 3 to 5 feet. I don't know which one's better, but.
Well, why can't we just go from the street? I still don't understand that. Instead of, because the street is the street is the street. It's the one absolute. I can go on any street and this is the edge.
I would disagree with the counselor because let's say our new paving projects, the amount of paving we have, there's a whole bunch of dirt on either side. Other streets, we have pavement that goes out to 60 feet, right? We have a 60-foot right-of-way width and maybe we have 50 feet of pavement and sidewalks. So the edge of the street, depending where you're at, that could be good or not, right? You do a boulevard strip.
Well, and I think you're talking about an example would be the end of Davis Street where just the roadway was put in and
Right.
not
So
the
that's
parking
actually
area,
works
not the
really, that
sidewalk.
works really nice there. If you got an 18-inch sidewalk and asphalt
Right.
right up to that, edge of the street, then you got 18 inches plus whatever we're doing a setback. So that's kind of the problematic thing where my personal opinion, you guys do whatever you want, but 2 feet's pretty small with 18 inches. Because the edge of the street, the edge of the right of way makes sense, whatever the right of way is, and people can kind of figure that out. But the edge of the street varies greatly from how far away it is from, say, their property line, the individual's property line.
So the edge of the right of way would be different than the edge of the sidewalk? Because it would
Generally
change,
Well,
it would change depending on where you are.
right. All of our street lists change wherever you are. I mean,
Okay.
we've got 40s, we've got 50s, we've got 60s, we've had some 72s. I mean, it's like no system of logic to our
Okay.
streets, really.
Why can't we just make the setback longer?
Make the setback what?
Make the setback longer, so, you said you've got the sidewalk in 2 feet? So make it the sidewalk in 4 feet, so it encompasses the 18-inch
yeah.
sidewalk or the 4-foot
I
sidewalk.
mean, that's the
Well,
discussion.
Right,
That's
and
the
that is
discussion.
just what you guys had discussed last
Right,
time,
and
3 to 5
that
feet.
could possibly eat up a whole lot of somebody's front yard and without it being necessary. What I would like to avoid is overregulation, but still maintain the safety. So, for example, houses on First Street, houses on, that do have the boulevard way and the sidewalk, there's no need for them to have to lose 4 feet. That's too much. That's asking too much. But then
They do on the corner.
but then, well, that makes sense, but it's triangulated. It's triangulated so that you can't see around the corner. So why would I wanna ask someone, that's gonna put, 2 car lengths from the intersection, but you still have to go back 4 feet, just because that's what the ordinance says. But I'm looking for an ordinance that covers the safety, but doesn't infringe too much upon the property owner's right to do with their yard what they wanna do.
So unless you take that and you break it out for each street, it's gonna be pretty impossible to cover every single property within the city limits to do that. That's why ordinances, you try to meet in the middle of over ordinances and making it safe.
Make it 3 feet.
3 feet.
Meet in the middle.
I just want to make one more comment, and this is probably, I don't mean to be sarcastic, but there was a comment by somebody in the last meeting that we don't like to tell people what they do with their privacy fence. But I have to say, if that's the privacy you want, you need to live in the country. Because in town, we share space and we respect each other's space, and we have to consider safety. So I don't think that's a very good argument, I guess is what I'm saying. But I understand exactly what you're saying. I don't like regulations either, but I sure don't like being interfered with, and I don't think anybody else does either. And I think that is the issue. When it presents
But it
interference.
presents a safety issue.
Then-
I'd like to cover the safety issue.
So I get what she's
Without
saying, I
that
wish
issue.
we could do different ordinances for different pieces of property. But she says we can't do
That
that.
would be joyous for our code enforcement officer to.
Oh, yeah.
So every fence that is built, each
Yeah,
one,
each
each
one's
one
a
is
little
different.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Maybe
Which,
just allow
which
glass
block of
fences.
Broadway are we on?
We're not getting,
Right.
Material, you could go with material.
go what?
Material that doesn't block visibility.
So how is,
Glass fences.
Wires.
let's say we're on Grand Avenue over here that's dirt.
Mm-hmm.
How do you define where the end of the where the edge of the right of way is?
You know, to be honest, counselor, if you've done it long enough visually, you can say that when we do fence permits, you know, you go out there, if there's a question, and you're like, okay, there's usually a visual line, it may not be perfect, just like the alleys. Our alleys, we know how wide they're supposed to be, so you can kind of like, sometimes you're like, ooh, well, some of this is encroached, we'll measure them, but the streets, you can kind of see the property lines. They're not always perfect, right, but you kind of see where the common thing is. But we do know what most of our right-of-way widths are, so if we have to, we do that, but most of the streets are well enough established that you could guess that pretty accurately. It's a guess, right? I mean, but, you know, if you get down to that level, is how many people's residential lots actually have their corner pins in them? Well, this is mine. It's like, really? Can you show me the stakes? No, they're long gone, right? So, like fences between two properties, I worked in communities where we had cooperative fence agreements because someone would say, well, this is my property, well, no, this is my property. And, you know, it's like, do you all wanna pay to get surveyed? No. Then how about you sign this agreement that says, we agree, whoever's encroaching is okay, we're gonna put a fence here. So fences are a little subjective on what the proper location is. We have lots of fences that are out of compliance with, you know, really what their property is. I'm not picking on any particular neighborhood, it's kind of universal. But most of the right of ways we can come close on. But that's why I'm like, for the code officer, so. that
Yeah,
was-
no, I was just trying to, because the question is, you know, the question is sidewalk right of way, and I was just trying to get that in my brain, you know, we need to say, you know, 2 feet from the sidewalk or so much from the right of way, whichever is
Present.
less, more, whatever's present.
Right, if there's a sidewalk present, the sidewalks generally give you a pretty good idea. You know, you're like, the back of the sidewalk is usually, not 100%, but pretty close to being the individual property owner's property line. That one's that's why sidewalks are great, you're like, yep. And everyone kind of generally agrees to that. When you don't have sidewalks, you kind of get to that. Like, where do people put their previous fences? Does it look like the right width? Do we have to measure it? You know, sidewalks are great for that. But I think sidewalk or right of way, whichever is present, is really good without having people have to survey their lots. It's not perfect, I'll say.
No, yeah, there's nothing that's perfect, so.
Well, another suggestion is just utilize our existing nuisance ordinances. You don't have to have a one size fits all. Seriously, because you know, I understand what you're saying, if it's not a problem, why are we gonna go looking for it? I certainly would it, but if you have something that is a problem, and then we wouldn't have to be talking about 2, 3, 5 feet. It would be, like you said, most of our streets are just fine. And I agree.
Because all of this is coming up over one fence, right?
Exactly.
Over
Well,
one
fence
fence.
that's been brought to our attention, I have
Right.
done some driving around and there's several.
There's probably several, but you know, like, you know, those people have never come. Like, have you heard of any accidents there? You know, I don't know. I don't know.
I'm good with the 2 feet. I think in most, I mean, if we have to make a blanket rule, I think it's the least invasive blanket rule to make. it still may not solve every problem. I don't know that we can come up with an ordinance that's going to solve every problem.
Probably won't.
Probably won't. But 2 feet is an effort. And some of the other things that she brought up in her 3 minutes, I think maybe we can look at that at some point. I think that we should look at that at some point. Tonight's not the night to do that, because it's a whole new can of worms, so we need to have some time to look to do that. But I think this is, again, that's all I have to say, the most effective and least restrictive, least intrusive.
Can I say one last thing? If it's only one fence, and I know the fence, but there's a couple of them that haven't complained, but if it's only one fence and you pass this whole thing and you grandfather that in, what has this whole thing cured?
Well, that's what she was talking
That's my
about.
point.
That's what.
Well,
That's why I
that's
said
a
we
good
need.
point. What does it cure?
It cures the future, Ken.
Not the present.
I won't argue about the grandfathered thing, other than to say there's a reason things are grandfathered, because those are lawsuits that are difficult to win. And I will tell you that a fence is neither a building nor a structure. So you can't,
But it's a nuisance.
boy, taking that to court is very difficult.
Yeah.
Then, because like, I don't like your tree hanging over here, and I want the city to declare that a nuisance.
And they
it's
can.
dangerous.
If my tree is causing a problem in somebody's property, it certainly can happen.
It can, but
Okay.
anyway.
But that's kind of off of
I know. I'm sorry.
this, and I'm not saying that
No,
it shouldn't
I
be discussed.
understand. I agree.
And
I agree.
it does need to be discussed.
I
It
agree.
needs to be an agenda item at some point.
That's fine.
But it's not right now. We're looking at this right now. So I'm okay with this for right now, and then I would like to look into, if there is anything we can do about.
So is there anything that that we could do with having like a, if it's gonna be 6 foot, can it be a chain link the last 3 feet or 2 feet or something?
So we actually had that, in part of this, we had it where, it had to taper down to 4 feet if it was coming up through a driveway, or the front had to be 4 feet, but that was asked to be taken out of the ordinance. So to allow, if somebody wants to build a 6-foot fence all the way around their property, they can do so.
And I'm the one that asked to have that taken out at the last meeting, because one of the problems was a toddler, that you brought up that the toddler was walking down the sidewalk. We don't grow 4-foot toddlers, so bringing the fence down to 4 foot doesn't solve that problem.
But you
It
can
only-
see over the fence from my car window.
Well, it depends on what you're driving.
Okay, I see your point. I see
If you're in a smaller car,
Good point.
and there's only this much headroom, you can
That's why
raise up and you
setback
still
makes
can't
sense.
see over that, and there's still that child. So that was why I asked for the 4 foot to not be an issue, simply because it didn't solve the problem, and it did put a restriction on property owners that didn't solve the problem. If it solved the problem, then I'm okay with the restriction. It doesn't solve the problem.
And in other cities, I can tell you that the 4-foot fencing height regulation in the front is for more aesthetics than anything.
So it's not a safety issue. And aesthetics is in the eye of the beholder.
But the
That's
setback
builder.
is safety.
Correct.
Okay. And that's what we're really discussing, is the amount of setback. We agree on that.
I may not understand the right-of-way correctly, but what would you think about 2 feet away from the sidewalk or 4 feet away from the edge of the road if there's no sidewalk present? Does that answer your... Does that make sense? I mean...
So 4 feet from the edge of the right of way?
Or 2 feet from the sidewalk?
Yeah, if there's not a sidewalk.
There's not a sidewalk.
Well, that's actually pretty good, Council. I mean,
That's,
it provides 2 alternatives that are
Makes sense.
roughly give you the same distance.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's pretty good.
Well, and in some areas, like mine, 4 foot from the edge of the right of way would be,
Well, you'd be 2 feet from the sidewalk.
Yeah,
and 20 feet
Yeah.
from the road, no.
Yeah.
But you have a boulevard strip, don't you?
yeah,
Yeah, so,
So you wouldn't need that much, you have the Boulevard Street strip and the sidewalk, so you wouldn't need to go more than 2 feet back.
right.
well, I would, but, I mean, I got a hedge that sets right up to the sidewalk, but, and in that case, I keep it trimmed real good, but I've got a big sidewalk and that curving, or the boulevard,
Right.
so that leaves room for my neighbor to back out and,
And this covers hedges too, it's a fence, a hedge, a garden wall, retaining wall,
yeah,
anything.
so. Huh?
I kinda like the 2 or 4 that Councilor Foster suggested, that seems to cover the problem.
So we need to
Need
amend
your
that
heart,
again?
just go rewrite it again.
We haven't even put this on the floor for a motion, but we, that's
So
okay.
you do not have a motion yet. So-
Yeah,
No, we
no.
don't have a motion yet.
Well, because with the change, we don't have an ordinance to motion about.
Sure you do.
Oh, do we?
Yeah.
You can make a motion to accept the ordinance as amended by adding what Counselor Foster said, and you're good to go. It's first reading, it's gotta have a second reading, you'll get the perfected copy for your review at your next meeting.
Okay. Well, I move that we approve ordinance 909 as amended by Councilor Foster to be a 2 feet from the sidewalk or 4 feet from the,
Right.
from the right of way for our new fence ordinance.
Second.
We have motion moved and seconded for the fence ordinance as so stated. Is there any more discussion?
Question on section E1, rear yard, are we reducing fence heights in the backyards too?
No, so it'll be 6 feet all the way around. You can have a 6-foot fence all the way around.
Okay, thank you.
Any more discussion? Nita?
Counselor Foster?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Segala?
Aye.
Counselor Locke?
Aye.
Mayor Becker?
Aye.
Motion carries to approve ordinance 909 on first reading. Second reading will be July 1st.
Yay.
You're done with that. Move on.
I want to thank you for bringing that to
No,
our
I want to
attention.
thank you
Well,
for logical discussion.
We need our citizens to come in here and talk to us, and so I appreciate you doing that, and I would hope that you would try to encourage.
Oh, I will tell people, I will tell
To come and
people.
talk to us.
And I love his comment. We've all actually said that. She said it first, it doesn't help the current situation, which I'm not giving up on, so. I don't give up very easily, but I understand the art of negotiation.
Well, I expect to hear from you again, and we'll open up that can then.
I just don't want there to be any lawsuits, okay, that's all I want.
No.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'll look forward to your last article.
Have a good evening.
You too, thank you so much.
MVI bid award to the airport runway.
So good evening, Mayor, councilors. So MVI should be called a soap opera rather than an airport. That's just my opinion, but, so, late for the packet due to ongoing negotiations with CDOT's Aeronautical Division, the FAA, the Aviation Planning Group, which is our planning group, etc. So the bids came in, for the long and short of it, for the pavement rehabilitation and taxiway widening for our airport. That's great, bids came in. There was only one bidder, which is not surprising, because there's, well, one asphalt company in the valley. And they've done a lot of work for us, and they're a very good contractor, but there's only so much they can do. And there's really no other contractors up here. There's all kinds of things that we're not talking about, like the shortage of oil to make asphalt right now. The plants that made it in Texas are not making it, so I don't even know where they're getting it, but anyway, so Schedule 1 is the runway rehabilitation. That actually came in pretty good. Schedule 2 is the fabulous taxiway widening project, which is complicated and expensive because it's a lot of very fine detailed work. And that came in, so we ended up about $300,000 total budget. Ouch. So there was quite a bit of discussion. And I'll just throw in here, you all might remember, I believe we talked about we have a fuel project for a fuel station out at the airport this year. And that money is coming from CDOT's aviation division. Before I came back to Colorado, I didn't know they had an aviation division, but that's their grant. So there was a discussion that actually took place today. You know, the bids were previously open about would CDOT want to, you know, shift those funds to the taxiway, and basically they're like, no, because we've had some compliance issues with our fuel system, and that's the reason CDOT's aviation group gave us the $300,000 for that project, is so that we could get that caught up. So the fuel project is still on, still good, all that's great. For this project, you'll see on page 2 of this, and why did I include all this stuff? Just so you can see all the paperwork that our contractors and our engineers have to do in order to just bid one of these things. But page 2, you have a recommendation from our engineers, and that is to award Schedule 1 of the project. This is based on available funding, discussions with FAA, CDOT, and City. APG recommends City awards Asphalt Constructors, Inc. Schedule 1 of the project. Schedule 2 will not be constructed at this time. Schedule 2, so unfortunately, I'm sure some of our aviators will not like this, but it will be included in the 2028 project when the runway is rebuilt. We already had that discussion with FAA, so we're leaving money on the table here, but it's an entitlement. So the money we leave on the table, we will get back in 2028 when we do the runway project. So not a total loss. Anyway, so staff would recommend that the City Council approve award of the Schedule 1 MVI project to Asphalt Constructors, Inc. In the amount of $377,833, and of course, 60 cents.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Schedule 1. Of the runway rehabilitation and taxiway widening. Is there any more discussion? Do we need to have approval for you to sign the contract? as
Yes,
well?
please.
So amend your motion.
I would amend my motion as mentioned, along with allowing for us to sign the contract.
We have a second on the amended motion.
Second the amended motion.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion? Nita?
Counselor Locke,
Aye.
Counselor Foster,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Segola,
Aye.
Mayor Becker.
Aye.
Motion carries to approve the MVI bid and to, Schedule 1 and to allow for city manager to sign contract.
For $377,833.
60 cents. Thank you. That's 60 cents, makes the deal.
They give you any ideas when they're gonna get oil?
Hopefully, by the time we have this all buttoned up here, by August, they should have some oil.
Maybe receive and approve and financial reports.
Good evening again. So Rebecca, you're not the only one whose last meeting is tonight. So as you all know, this is my last city council meeting with the city of Monte Vista. So Before I dive into my report this evening, I just want to thank everyone in this room for the opportunity that was afforded me to work here over the last 3 years. It's been an amazing experience, and I will greatly miss everyone, so thank you. The other thing that I would ask before I go over the financial report is, as you know, Mr. Logan was here earlier to present the 2020 audit. I do need a motion for council to accept that audit so I can submit it to the state. So if I could get that, that would be greatly appreciated.
Motion to accept the auditor's report as stated.
Seconded.
Been moved and seconded to accept the Logan and Associates audit report. Is there any more discussion? Nita?
Counselor Locke,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Segula,
Aye.
Counselor Foster,
Aye.
Mayor Becker.
Aye.
Motion carries to accept the 2020 audit from Logan and Associates.
Thank you. So in your council packet this evening is an overview of the first quarter for 2021. I'm not going to read everything in that. I'm just going to highlight a few things. As of March 31st, 2021, the available cash for the city was a little over $2.8 million. This is an increase in cash of 23% since December 31st of 2020. I apologize for that typo in the first line there. Of that $2.8 million, a little over $1 million is allocated to the general fund. As of March 31st, 2021, the city has diversified investments and savings totaling $4.4 million, or almost $4.5 million across across all funds, which includes the lease purchase proceeds from Sky High project of $2.4 million. To highlight a few things on the general fund, as of March 31st, revenues exceeded expenditures in the amount of $2.6 million. That number's a little bit skewed because, as you recall, we did close the lease purchase agreement with SLV Federal Bank for the Sky High project in March. So if you don't look at the lease proceeds, currently the general fund would have a revenue over expenditures of $170,000, which brought the fund balance to a little over $4.6 million. Without the lease proceeds in there, the fund balance is $2.2 million, which equates to an 8% increase since the end of 2020. Sales tax revenues are again coming in strong, and as Kyle stated, a lot of that is due to the online sales. I believe that's what is attributing to a lot of the increase in sales tax, which we're not going to complain about. For the water fund, revenues exceeded expenditures by $15,000. And it brought the fund balance to $1.8 million in the water fund. Available cash in the water fund is $787,000. And expenditures are trending under budget in all the departments, which helps offset the revenues that are trending lower as well. We'll see an increase in revenues in the water fund during the summer months when people start watering their lawns. Sewer fund highlights. Revenues are exceeding expenditures in the amount of $135,000, which is bringing the fund balance in the sewer fund to a little over $4.2 million, which is a 3% increase since the end of the year of 2020. As far as the Sky High project goes, we can all see that we're making great progress on that, and as we move forward with that, we will begin to see the fund balance in the general fund start to deplete as we have expenditures with that. As you'll recall, the lease purchase had to be budgeted for in the general fund in case we didn't receive the donation contributions that are to repay that lease purchase agreement. So like I said, this is my last council report, and so I thought it might be kind of fun to take a look back over the last 3 years of where we were when I started and where we're kind of finishing up with my departure. The general fund balance has increased 300% since 2017. When I came on board, the audit report showed a fund balance of $555,000. And like I said earlier, right now it's at $2.2 million. Without the lease proceeds, we would actually see a 741% increase. So something kind of fun there. Cash has increased 515%. When I came on board in the general fund, we had $278,000 that was allocated to the general fund, and now we have nearly $2 million that's allocated to the general fund. We've increased our investments significantly since I came on board, and for the first time in quite some time, all funds are operating within best practices for cash on hand and fund balances. So I can't take all the credit for that. It was a team effort. It took department heads doing their jobs of keeping expenditures in check. We really tried hard to use the city's funds that would be in the best interest of the community, and I think we've done a good job as a whole. So is there any questions regarding my report?
It's a good report.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. Come a long way. City manager report.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. I remember at one point, early on when I was here, when we had $23,000 in cash in the general fund. And when you have that little in the general fund, you're like, boy, do we have enough money to make payroll? We worked it out, but we've come a long way, and a lot of that's, it's based on, it's a team effort, Our finance director's done a great job. Our staff has done a really good job, and the city council has done a really nice job of having conservative budgets. And last year, you started our audit for the year of COVID. And, honestly, the Wayfair decision made at the, federal level was very helpful, right? Because 3 years ago, you didn't get sales tax from online sales, even 2 years ago. Couldn't have been more timely. So that's really helped us along. And, that's our citizens shopping other places. Is that the best thing? I don't know, but that's kind of the reality of it these days. There's not Cabela's here, or there's not Penny's here anymore, right? So, there's things have changed a lot in the market, but it does show that there's some resilience to our economy because people are actually spending money. So, really a congratulations to our community. We've become much more financially sound. We still got a ways to go, but it's definitely much better. A couple things that were in my report. The Trails Project, our Trails Project right out here at the end, or it's not the end of Chico, well, technically it is, over here behind Big R and stuff, starts next week. So we just had a coordination meeting we've got some youth conservation corps kids, some of whom are from Monte Vista. And I don't know who the new reporter's gonna be, Becca, but you don't either? Okay, well, we wanna get somebody.
I'm still here for another week, so I'm not getting rid of that.
Okay, so maybe we can get circled up start of the week, because it'd be fun to get the pictures of the kids working on the trail. Trail's all staked out. The Public Works Department is very helpful on this. We've got some people filling some roles, and I just want to recognize both Dave and Lowell have really stepped up and done some great things. I mean, Lowell really helped out with the trails thing, and he solved a problem at Sky High that with all the engineers and everything else seemed like it wasn't going to get solved. And that was simply, how do you get water to the corrals? And basically we had a memo from our contractors that there wouldn't be water in the corrals for Stampede at the fair. And Lowell and I had a talk, and he goes, well, here, he starts drawing on a piece of paper. So we printed out a Google Earth map. He's like, here's a curb stop, here's a water line, here's where the old curb stop is. You go here, they trench that, we're done. I was like, wow. Took it to the contractors, they're like, yeah, that'll totally work. We just did the call before you dig Monday. The contractor's gonna dig the trench, we'll provide the pipe and the connections, and so we will have water out there. So I kinda liked it because it was a Google Earth sketch, right? Not engineered, not a bunch of fancy stuff, but he really stepped up on that, and he's been here a while and has really good knowledge, so I was really proud of our guys. Have really been doing a nice job. Other than that, You know, the Sky High is going well, and if you haven't been down there in the last 7 to 10 days, you look at the front of it, and the storefronts should be in this week. The masonry's in the front. The ticket booth they're working on is almost entirely closed in. Pretty good chance we get the TCO in time for Stampede, right? But there's a pretty good chance of it, which would be great, which means it'll be available for fair too. And then they'll kind of shut down for a while and finish the construction. But it is going well. You know, the masonry's really fantastically done. Really great subcontractor. You know, and foreman down there right now, Kyler Cooper he's a can-do guy. So it's just coming along really well. And, you know, that's a huge community project with the friends and, you know, our staff and Alcon and all these different subcontractors local. So it's pretty exciting. It's almost there. And if you haven't been in there yet, it's immense. Just think about laying 2 high school basketball courts end to end and having room on either sides of them all the way around. That's the event center. That's not even a conference center. So it's pretty awesome. Okay, that's all I have tonight unless y'all have any questions. Awesome, thank you.
Thank you, Forrest. Mr. Trujillo.
Mayor, Council, don't have really a long report here today. Just for your information, our last court day was Wednesday, and we're getting pretty darn busy, so it looks like summer's here, and I think we're gonna get back to square one. With the COVID thing, I think cases were down and all activities were down, but looks like we're getting back to square one. Mainly what I am addressing here today, I think the city manager wanted me to render an opinion for the council and staff really about the flooring that the council voted on last meeting. Folks were apparently indicating that was illegal and we shouldn't have done that and this kind of thing. Pretty good savings to the taxpayers by making that decision, and probably a lot bigger savings if you had not made that decision, simply because, as you heard from the co-op folks and anybody that knows anything that's going on in the lumber business, it's just going through the roof, and I don't know where it's going to stop. So, you know, and certainly it would be my idea from a best practice standpoint. We get the stuff to the committee. That's the way folks want it to be. That's the way it was, the referendum was. And that's certainly what we need to do every chance we get. I mean, this was sort of not sure an emergency situation, but it was a exigent type situation where you need to make a call if you know, to save a bunch of money, or maybe the price goes way up on us. And so I know it would have been a whole lot better in the communications. Everybody would have been better off and not had any issues had it gone there, but I'm sure the price would have gone up. But this issue had been on the committee's table before. I think they knew about the flooring. That's my information. Kind of had been in the budget. I think the only issue was what the cost maybe was going to be ultimately. But I'm not really sure I saw any issue with we need to get flooring. It's just how much is it going to cost. And so at this March meeting, I don't know that anybody ever objected to getting it. I think it was on the radar, just how much. But, you know, I think just to understand that the 1 cent committee is really an advisory type committee. You know, they make recommendations, the council can reject those recommendations. approve them, modify them. The city council really has ultimate authority to spend city taxpayer money. And this board is an advisory board. Certainly, again, I think the best practice is we wanna do what the taxpayers wanted us and get the information to them and let them make the recommendations. That's fairly clear. But to go to the extreme of this was an illegal vote, I don't see it that way. That's not my opinion. I think that, you know, this advisory board is great to have in place, but given the circumstances of having to make a call or cost the taxpayers a bunch of money, I think it was certainly a legal vote, and ultimately you folks have that authority to make the call. The 1 cent folks are an advisory committee. They have no authority to make any decisions regarding the spending of the money, only a recommendation. So I guess that's my take on it, my opinion on it, and I think, I don't know, I think there was a lot of stress about it and that kind of thing, and so anyway, and I think I sent an opinion to you folks. Hopefully you've had a chance to look at it, but that was sort of my main purpose of doing a report tonight, and I don't know if anybody has any questions about that or. So,
Thank you, Mike. Thanks for
thank you folks.
Appreciate it, Mike.
Take care.
Good evening again, Council. Just a few things that I have on my report that I wanted to go over. First of all, I'd like to remind local liquor license holders that each year they're gonna get a renewal from the state of Colorado. The state sends the liquor license renewal directly to the license holder. They need to fill that out, bring it to the city for sign off from my department, and then it gets sent to the Department of Liquor Enforcement. Excuse me. So I just wanted to remind folks that, you know, if you hold a liquor license, please keep an eye out for your renewal and make sure you get that renewal in on time. With the municipal courts, as Mr. Trio said, I think we're getting back on track. Courts are being held once a month, the third Wednesday of each month. I don't know if you all know this or not, but the magistrate court, the United States District Court through Colorado, they are located over in Durango, and they hold magistrate court here in our courtroom. And they usually do it once a month throughout the summer months, so they start in April and they go until October. The U.S. Marshals who come down with Judge Candelaria have acquired, and I just got the final word on it today, they are bringing in a security metal detector that they are donating to the city of Monte Vista. It is it will be the U.S. Marshals property. They will have to inspect it once a year, but it will be located, they're gonna come over and set it up and for our courtroom, so we'll have an actual security system at the courtroom. So that was a really good thing, and there's no cost to us at all for that. The Planning and Zoning Commission, we're working on some rezoning for the downtown commercial area. We have some areas that downtown that are currently zoned commercial business that probably shouldn't be zoned commercial business, so we're working on that. Next meeting is the 24th of this month, and then we're hoping to have that completed and brought to council by August. Some other news, just wanted to kind of remind you all that we have a work session on the 22nd with the chamber to discuss the chamber lease, and we also will be discussing any letters of interest that were sent to the city for the empty seat on council. Currently, I only have one letter submitted, and that we put that invitation out in the paper. It was on the City of Monte Vista website, on the radio. the last thing I wanted to bring up is the sign that's east of town that says "Welcome to Monte Vista." It sits on the Schrader's property, and they are getting ready to sell that property. So I've been working with them to obtain an easement for that sign. I will be sending Mr. Trujillo all the information that I received, and they did agree to grant us an access easement for that sign. So we'll be working on that and getting that completed.
Awesome.
Okay. And then my last thing is, I just wanted to say, Jenny, thank you for everything you've done for the city of Monte Vista. I wish you nothing but the very best on your new adventure.
Thank you.
Us too, Jenny.
Thank you.
Nice having you.
Thank you, Nita.
This is not my last meeting, I hope.
Keep it up. Keep it up there, buddy.
That's what I said, I hope.
You're still on probation, right?
Am I still on probation?
Could be.
Uh,
For like 2 more hours.
Okay.
3 more hours.
I'll be able for 2 hours. So I don't have a lot. We've Stampede planning, we met with the Stampede Security Committee a couple times, including last night, and that's going really good. We've had the opportunity to go down and with them, the sheriff's office, I had all the agencies in yesterday. We're gonna do one more. That's going really good. We've got a great plan in place. We think, we hope. I know hope's not a method, but we're hoping it's looking pretty good. Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is going to be guessing how many people show up, right? I mean, Stampede community really seems to think that this is going to be big. I as well. I think most of us really feel this, because really this is going to be the first major event in the valleys. I think it's going to bring a lot of people. I think the concert's going to bring a lot of people. So we're kind of over planning for it, that we'll be able to scale it back. So but we're in good shape. We've got a lot of help that's going to be able to come in and help with that. That's really the only big thing we've got. And I sent some press releases out on this. We've had a lot of thefts from vehicles, and these are always crimes of opportunity, where people leave their wallet or a cell phone or something in view in their vehicle, and somebody just stumbling by, whatever, sees that, they check the door's unlocked, and they walk in, or they reach in the car and steal it. So we've really been trying to get the word out that Rebecca, of course, has been great about that, as well as Bob from the radio station. We've got that message out, so we're hoping that helps. The other thing is our security checks for vacation checks. If you know people aren't, encourage them to call us and fill it out online. We've been getting a bunch of those. Since we put that press release out, we've really seen the uptick in those people requesting security checks of their homes while they're on vacation. Of course, we don't disclose that. We're really careful about calling out and making sure checking, so that if people are listening to Scan Online, they don't know which block or whatever we're checking in. So if you know people that are going on vacation, encourage them to either fill that out or just call us or send us an email, whatever, so that we can do security checks of their residents while they're gone. Other than that, so a couple of really good things. I just got word late this afternoon. I put in for a bunch of grants for equipment. Earlier in the month, I got one on body cameras, because I want to buy some extra body cameras. They're about $1,500 a piece, and I got the funding for that from Post. So that's good. That's no cost to the city. And then I just got word this afternoon I put in for a grant for around $50,000, and we got that. So to buy rifles, patrol rifles, as well as radios for the cars. The radios in the patrol cars, most of them are way past end of life. I've talked about that before, but I got funding for at least 3, and hopefully I can do that. So, and those radios last about 10 years. So we can get like the life of 2 cars out of those radios. So I got funding for 3 brand new ones. Plus we'd already purchased a couple, so we're right there. And then to buy some additional tasers, and again they're about $1,500 a piece. So we got the funding for that. So I'm pleased to get that. And finally, I think the last most least, Jenny, thank you for everything you've done as coming from state government to municipal government. That's a challenge, especially budgeting and stuff like that. And Jenny has been absolutely phenomenal in kicking me in the butt and saying, do this, don't do that type of stuff. And I take getting yelled at, so I appreciate that. I seriously do. You really made the budgeting thing and really helped me understand that a lot. And last but not least, Rebecca, best of luck in everything you do. We're really going to miss you. So best of luck. Don't be a stranger. You're always welcome here. So thank you. Any questions?
I have seen there's more calls. Is it because people are being more diligent to turn the stuff in?
As far as
this year as opposed to last year?
yeah, I think some of that, but you know, warmer weather too. It's and with COVID last year, I think everything was, you know, people were staying home, but it's our call volume's really gone up. I was telling Forrest earlier today. He was like, I didn't think you were here today, but it's because I was out taking calls because we were so busy today. So I've been, you know, trying to help the guys as much as I can. And then it's I saw that on there. We have 2 officers that are going to be on maternity leave, both named Michael at the exact same time. What are the chances of that? So that may be causing us a few challenges as far as staffing, but we'll work through it and make that happen. But yeah, calls have really been upticking here in the last month or so. With it really getting warm.
Other than just not leaving stuff out in our cars and things like that, what can the citizens Markets do to help?
So I mean, one of the big things is mark. Like I put in that press release is mark your valuables. Like a lot of things, or write down the serial numbers and stuff like that if it does get stolen. You know, that way it's amazing how many people have stuff stolen and like, I don't have a serial number for that. Take a picture of it, save it in a file or something like that. I mean, with cell phones, it's so easy. Snap a picture of the serial numbers, whether it's your TV, whether it's your weapons, whether it's whatever, and that just helps us, especially when we recover. Like last fall, we recovered. We've got a whole room full of equipment over there. We don't know what it belongs to, and we can't find anybody because we run the serial numbers and it's not in the system. So we got a whole room full of equipment that eventually we're going to have to get rid of. So
Yard sale.
what's that? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, literally, there's thousands of dollars worth of tools and stuff in there. We know it's stolen. We just don't know where it's stolen from. So, and we've put press releases out. We've sent statewide bulletins out to other agencies. Hey, are you missing, with pictures saying, are you missing this equipment and stuff? And we got a bunch of inquiries, but it wasn't the equipment. So, just be diligent. Have good records of the stuff like that if it is, but more importantly, lock your doors, lock your garage doors, don't leave your garage doors open. It's interesting, real quick side note on this, we were just on vacation in Nashville and was watching TV one night, and they had a deputy, whatever county, if you believe it's Davidson County down there in Nashville. He's on TV talking, and I literally just read some emails from Michael and Eugene about all the thefts we had. But this deputy in Davidson County, Tennessee, is talking about all the thefts from cars being unlocked, from garages being unlocked, and all the exact same things. So I'm like, it's not just Monte Vista, it's just one of those things this time of the year. Those type of thefts go up because people are out there walking around and stuff like that. So be diligent, lock your stuff up, and have a good record of it. And don't throw shoes.
Don't throw shoes. That stops things from happening sometimes.
It's warm enough to let your dog out, you know.
Yep.
So dogs are very good.
Yeah, that was another thing I put in there. A good point is, we had somebody say, well, our dog normally doesn't bark, but they were barking last night about 1 o'clock. Call us. We will come. I mean, you know, a lot of people, I mean, I appreciate it, but they're like, well, we don't want to bother you with the minor things. Bother us with those minor things. That's our job. We will come out and check it out. We'd rather you call us and us come out and check it out and not find something there versus later on going, oh, I should have called the police. So call us. That's what we're here for.
Or
You're
maybe
supposed
somebody-
to do that before we go out and confront the problem.
Either way, just call us. That's our job is to respond.
Or maybe somebody in 90-degree weather wearing a hoodie and a backpack and hoods up. Maybe that's a little suspicious. Or no?
It depends. I mean, anymore everybody wears hoodies. I wear hoodies.
Yeah.
With the hood up and it's 95 degrees.
Maybe it's trying to lose weight. Just saying.
Yeah.
Okay. IT.
Oh, bring
It
it.
always feels like such a long walk.
Walk of shame.
We're IT people, we like to sit. but just gonna highlight a few things tonight. So in your packet is a picture. We did finally wrap up our whole overhaul, so we are running all new switches. We've got new cable underneath the floors, new servers, new backup server. It's pretty much that point in time where we let it run and see what we broke in the process of replacing everything. So, I mean, the report's kind of small, and it's depressing writing down these items and like, well, here's 4 weeks worth of work and, you know, 3 guys working 8 hours a day, and it's summed up in one line. So, report's kind of small, but you guys are always welcome to come back and take a look and see what we're doing back there. Other than that, I don't have a whole lot to report. More just kind of waiting to see what we broke and what's functioning properly.
That's when your computer wasn't working.
Yeah, we're having some issues with the Wi-Fi. I'm currently working on that. Though forgetting passwords is a different story. Don't worry, remembering your password's always the hardest part. I tell everyone that when I'm working with them. Other than that,
Looks good, man. That spaghetti mess you fixed looks good.
Yeah, it is.
it was a nightmare. Now, maybe next council session we can do a 15-second report. No, I get the feeling you'll get sick of IT by the end of next council session.
Well,
Are you gonna do the
Thank
next
you.
report?
No, I'm gonna make Jim do it.
Alright, well, when you come home, you should have a lot of questions.
Alright, council, committee, city commission, and council reports. Mr. Foster, would you like to go first?
Why not? I actually have something to say. You just thought you made me go first because you thought I was going to say I didn't have a report, didn't you?
No, I usually bounce from end to end first, so.
Okay. What I got's a little bit different today. Because I will say that I would like to apologize to the citizens of Monte Vista, can't talk, and in particular to the members of the 1 Cent Committee, because I did not do my job at our most recent meeting. I was elected to council to oversee the actions of the city manager and to set and enforce policy for the city, and I did not do due diligence, and instead chose to accept a statement of city staff as accurate. Early last week, I took the wording of the initiative as it was passed by the voters to the Valley's foremost authority on civic law. At a minimum, my actions did not follow procedure, and in doing so, exposed the city to potential lawsuits. At a maximum, what I did was illegal. Realize that nothing is illegal until a judge says it's illegal, and in this case, we will probably never know. Irregardless, I did not uphold the spirit of the ballot wording that the citizens passed. I realize an apology does not repair the broken trust that has occurred. The only way to repair that is for me to do my job better, which is my goal. Next.
Am I?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, it's gonna follow along the same lines. I don't think we're treating our 1 Cent Committee correctly. The last meeting we had was in January. They asked for quarterly meetings. That's not been scheduled. If that was my job, I dropped the ball. And I didn't schedule those.
Counselor, if I may, we
Yes,
had a
ma'am.
meeting on March 16th with the 1 Cent Committee.
Okay, so, but we are still we're coming up on a new quarter.
I understand that.
Very soon.
Yes.
Okay, so we need to get that scheduled. I apologize. I was, for some reason, I thought our last meeting was in January. I do believe that it would be beneficial to at least set up an email group for our 1 Cent Committee, so that if we do have to do things between meetings, we can at least keep them informed and get their feedback from us. And I think that needs to be between the 1 Cent Committee and the council and city staff that's responsible for overseeing that. They volunteered to serve this community in this capacity, and I think they deserve at least that much respect and consideration, legal or not. It wasn't right. So, in my opinion. So I'm gonna go with that. And other than that, I think things are looking pretty good in Monte Vista. There are some things I'd like to see changed. there are still some eyesores downtown that are simply signs that I would like to, that I think are out of code. I'd like to have that looked at, because they're downtown. And I know that our code enforcer is very busy with the entire town. It's summertime, the weeds are growing, homeowners are trying to keep up with it. He's trying to be nice and say, hey, make sure you get this cleaned up. But we've had some signs downtown on First Avenue that are ugly as sin and need to come down. And I'm tired of the excuses of why they haven't been taken down. We have signs on Adams Street. We have one in particular that is simply a 4x8 piece of plywood, spray painted sign, slapped up on the wall. I'm pretty sure that doesn't fit with code either. Those are some pretty easy ones to go down and say, hey, fix this. I'm not asking any business owners to be fined if we can avoid that. Maybe they didn't understand there was a city code. Let's tell them. Whatever that process is, I'd like to see that happen. We're not supposed to have broken windows right there on First Avenue. Let's get this stuff fixed. I don't know if anybody's talking to these people or not. Let's get it fixed, and I know that the Optimistics, that's one of their things, is to help raise money to help them do that. I don't know that they're at the point that they can start helping, but so, you know, if a business owner is struggling, tell them to contact the Optimistics, see if they can do something. Maybe they can, maybe they can't. Maybe we can figure something out. Maybe the Optimistics can be a go-between between a broken window and a window fixer and get a discount. I don't know what the answer is. I just know that allowing it to continue day after day and week after week is doing nothing to improve the overall appearance of our town. And businesses being used as storage buildings, they have a business license, but they've been there for 6 months, 3 months, a year. What can we do about that? I don't know. I don't know what these answers are. I just want to bring these questions up. What can we do about that? Because it's just making us look bad. We had a Memorial Day weekend. Do you know where the people went to eat? Sonic, Dairy Queen, Subway. Because that's what we had to offer. And I think that's sad. I think that's very sad. They had no shops open. There was, you know, other than our beautiful area with hiking and biking and all that kind of stuff. But the people of Monte Vista didn't step up and open their doors and open their businesses and fix their places up and say, hey, we're glad you're here. So I want to see a little more positivity. And I'm not sure how to get that going, but I'll take any help, or I'll be any help I can be. I'm done. I thought I was done a couple of times, but I wasn't. But y'all thought I was done a couple of times too. I'm really done now.
Thank you, Martha. Victor?
Apologies to the 1 cent committee for cutting them out of the decision process. That won't happen again, hopefully, on my watch. I do want to thank Jenny for being as detailed as you are, you know, with all your financial stuff. It's amazing. It's when I hear your reports, I'm like, numbers. I'm like I can just see your brain just locking it all in, and that's great. So I wish you best of luck wherever you go. So, you too, Becca. Whatever you do, hope you prosper in whatever you guys plan to do. The days are warmer out there. A lot of people are getting out. I feel like I'm fortunate to live where I live and to see as many people walk by my house, and to really not get robbed, you know, like, and part of it is, I think, because I live right under the street light, you know, it's well lit, and then just to sometimes have your light on. You know, sometimes that's just enough to keep somebody walking. Not always. If they're desperate enough, they're gonna do whatever they need to fix whatever they need to fix. But like you said, lock your doors. It keeps honest people honest. You know, keep an eye out for your neighbors, for their dogs too. Like my neighbors' dogs get out and run around sometimes, and I like get them and lock them up in my pen. I'm like, oh, your dog is in my pen. Sorry, but I didn't want him running around chasing people or whatever. You know, but Monty strong, stay focused. I think you know, things are looking up and up. It's especially from 3 years ago from the reports that we had. You know, so it's awesome. I think we've had a great team together. So just hope that whatever comes along next is just as good, or you know. So thank you guys for everything.
Thank you, Victor. So first and foremost, Jenny done a fantastic job with the finances.
Thank you.
I told you that many times, but you are very good at it. You definitely have done a great job for the city.
Thank you.
Becca, I'm just sad it took this long to get you to say something, and then you had to tell us this.
That's something big. I'm just
But
ready.
The same as everybody else. I wish you guys the best for you and your whatever your future brings to you. Like, it's great. I don't know if we can break into the news reporter in the way you've come along. So I really appreciate you, and Jen as well. The talk about the PD. There's a lot of strange stuff going on. A week ago, there was a guy driving down my street with his phone out, videotaping homes. And me being me, got within about 6 foot of him and lit him up with a flashlight, and probably about caused him to wreck, but I should knock the phone out of his hand, because then when he stopped, I could have took care of business in the street, and then called the police officers and told them, hey, there's some guy laying out here in the street, I don't know what that happened to him. But it is paying attention to that. Always pay attention to your surroundings. I preach that to my wife and daughter all the time, and I know they don't do it all the time, and it's important. And as far as community, we are Monty strong. We all still learn. We all can learn. If you're done learning, then you're done. So we got to stay strong with each other. Right? We do things right. We do things wrong. But let's work together to make it right and not just go for that throat shot. Okay? So we're Monty strong. And with that being said, we adjourn the meeting until July 1st.
Yes.
And work session on June 22nd. Thank you all for this evening.